In our show today, South Africans on the price of petrol. How the fuel price is determined. And we dispel some petrol-saving myths. Dumelang and welcome to Consumer Guard. My name is Palesa Mujimiyan. As mentioned today, we'll be tackling the petrol price and how it's calculated. First up though, here's how people feel about the current price of petrol.
The price of petrol is one of the hottest topics in the country. Tongues go wagging whenever there's an increase or even a decrease, which is often welcomed with the words, "Fill up the tank." Currently, South African petrol price for 93-octane petrol is sitting at R13.32 per litre, with 95-octane sitting at R13.54 inland, with the coastlands getting it 49 cents cheaper. Currently, the petrol price has been on a decline, with the last adjustment resulting in a drop of just 25 cents. We asked consumers on their thoughts of the petrol price.
Look, basically, I don't know who calculates the petrol prices. I don't know who makes up the formulas, but what I know for sure is that these oil companies are making a big killing. And for, the motorists down here, South Africa, middle households, we're suffering because, there's not even a government bond or some sort of government subsidy that says, okay, fine, for these kind of class people, we'll give them so much. Look at the e-tolls are here, and now we have to pay more petrol.
I'm fair to price of petrol, lana, but when it comes to ilita inyuka, toroguti mhlambi leti inyuka nge 14 cent, mabehlisa, bayehlisa mhlambi uthola nge 2 cent, uyabona ukuthi vele sihlela siqhada. So South Africa ngaske yenze something ngaleyo nto.
So far so good because kune card like aba ups and down, but so okwamanje sathe ukuma ngibone ngathi sasengcono kwamanje because we can't complain, it always goes down and up and out. Yeah, ngingasho kanjalo nje.
Why is it that when the dollar price for the barrel per barrel is so low that we're not seeing that in the lowering of petrol prices for the last 2 or 3 weeks? So it doesn't make sense to me.
It's too expensive. With the recession as well, it's really too expensive.
Our neighboring countries like Lesotho and Botswana pay less for fuel than we do, despite the fact that they buy it from our refineries. Globally, however, there are countries that pay much higher than we do. According to globalprices.com, in Hong Kong, a litre of petrol converted into rands will cost you R24.55. The UK, R19.48 per litre, R8.96 in the USA, and Saudi Arabia paying R3.12. Looking at some of the BRICS countries, Brazil sits at R14.54, India at R13.89, and Russia at R9.09. The average price of petrol globally is R13.25 a litre, where the cheapest price is found in Venezuela, going for 13 cents a litre. The price of fuel in South Africa is influenced by global prices and, of course, crude oil, which sits at $44.54 per barrel. An increase in the oil price and the exchange rate often results in an increase in our prices, hitting consumers hard in the pocket. We asked our pool of consumers if they travel less when the price goes up.
I think it's ridiculous. Yeah, it just means that I need to do better financial planning in terms of staying far away from work. That it means that I've got less to spend on my salary every month. So if I'm traveling far, which I often do, it just affects my traveling costs, you know. And it's a little bit ridiculous that 20% of you know, the fuel levies is the road accident fund. How does that translate into us as South African citizens and users of the road? How do we benefit from it?
It affects us, but what can we say? Because as like mawamba ngemoto ingasi izinto zihlale at least unyaka oyi1 mhlawumbe ipetrol inyuka ngexabiso eli1 engaloku ukuthi after 3 months yenyuka yabo, because that's affect in our lives. Asiyazi nokuthi next month ipetrol izobe inyuke ngamalini, asikwazi ukubudgetera kanti sibudgetela ipetrol kanti sibudgetela ehlala inyuka every day yabo. Yeah.
The price of petrol is set and regulated by the Department of Energy. We spoke to the Director of Fuel Pricing Mechanism to find out the elements that determine the pricing structure.
The Department of Energy is tasked with the development, processing, management and regulation of South Africa's energy sources. Petroleum is one of the carriers handled by the department, and they also determine the price paid by consumers.
In South Africa, we are using the import parity pricing principle. What it means is all the petrol and diesel that we sell in the country is regarded as if it comes from international market, even though we have local refineries. And the reason for that was to make our refineries competitive with their international counterparts.
The fuel price is influenced by the international prices, meaning certain elements like the oil price has an effect.
So in our pricing element, we'll have the international elements. Those are the cost now of buying petrol, for example, in the international market, which is free on board, which is the cost of petrol. And you have also the freight, which is the shipping cost to bring it to South Africa. Then you have your insurance, you have your cargo dues, evaporation, and coastal storage. Those are the international element. And in South Africa, we call them the basic fuel price. We normally talk about the BFP. It's all about the international element. Then inland, when the product lands in Durban, lands in Cape Town and so on, now you have what is known as the local factors. Your local factors is your transportation cost, transport the product. You have your fuel levies, road accident fund, fuel levies, all the levies are now included. You also have your industry margins, your wholesale margin, retail margin, distribution margin, and so forth. Those are the local factors.
There are also other levies included in the pricing structure.
Well, the ones that changes on daily basis is the crude oil price, which informs the FOB, which is your import price. The price we'll pay for petrol in the international market. And the other one is the rand-dollar exchange rate, because everything that we buy is bought in dollars, all right? So those two factors changes on daily basis. That is why our prices changes on monthly basis.
A few years ago, the oil price rocketed up to $120 a barrel, and during that time, South Africans had to pay around 14 rand a litre for petrol. In 2017, the price per barrel has been around the $50 mark, but this has not resulted in a major drop in the petrol price.
Yeah, we have the road accident fund, as you rightfully said, which is now sitting at 163 cents a litre. And you have the fuel levy, which is now sitting at 315 cents, 3 rand 15 cents a litre. And these are determined by the Minister of Finance. The fuel levy is used as a part of the fiscus, where the Minister of Finance will then distribute his budget accordingly. Then we have other levies like your petroleum pipeline, petroleum products levy, which is about 0.03 cents a litre, which has to do with the pipeline that NERSA regulates. You know, the people who are shipping product through the pipeline, they pay a tariff to NERSA, and then based on that tariff, they then claim from this levy to recover their cost because the price is regulated. We also have the tracer dye levy, which is mainly applicable on diesel. It's 0.01 cents a litre. That one is used to buy a dye, you know, that is used to avoid people mixing diesel and paraffin, because they've got the same chemical composition. You can actually take 50% diesel and 50% paraffin and use it in your car without any problem. So to avoid that, and the reason why we're avoiding that is because paraffin is not taxed. There's no levies, there's no tax on paraffin. So people normally will mix paraffin and diesel to avoid paying the tax and the fuel levies. Now, for us to be able to avoid people, to make sure that people don't do that, we have this tracer dye levy that the oil companies must buy. And then when there's a mixing of of paraffin and diesel, it will change color because of the dye. Then we'll see that there's a problem. Then SARS will then prosecute the offenders.
Because of the levies for the RAF and the fuel price, our neighbouring countries pay much less for fuel, despite the fact that they get it from us.
Around 2011, I think, the price of crude oil, as you rightfully said, was above $100 US, in fact, close to $120 US per barrel. However, at the time, what we are not looking at is the rand-dollar exchange rate. At the same period, the rand-dollar exchange rate was sitting at about 6.50 rand. Now, today, the rand-dollar exchange rate is sitting around 12.7, 12.8. So actually, the two have gone the opposite direction. That's number one. Number two, the fuel levy in 2011 was almost 1.77 rand. As I said, today it's sitting at 3.15 rand. The road accident fund, it was 80 cents. Today it's sitting at 1.63 rand. It's an increase of more than 2 rand when you combine the two. In addition to that, there's also the annual adjustment that we make on pricing. Your industry margins are adjusted every year. Your transport costs are adjusted every year. Your salaries for people who are working at the forecourt, they're also part of your pump price. They're adjusted every year. And lastly, electricity costs are also adjusted every year. So these are some of the factors that contributed to the price as you see today. So we have seen the Minister of Finance taking advantage of the lower crude oil prices by also increasing the fuel levy so that government can also get more revenue.
Our only hope of paying less than 10 rand a litre lies in a strong currency against the dollar and cheaper oil prices.
Botswana and Swaziland, our neighboring countries, they get their fuel, most of them, from South Africa. The reason why they can sell less than what we are doing is because their fuel levy is much lower than what we have here, and they don't have a road accident fund as part of their pricing. So that's why they are selling at lower than the price that we are selling. I mean, if you look at our fuel levy and road accident fund, you combine them, it's almost 3 rand 78 cents combined. So those countries don't have that much. They might have a fuel levy of maybe 1 rand or less than 1 rand. That's why their price is much less. Yes, it is possible to go below the 10 rand mark, provided the current trends continue. For example, we have seen the crude oil price is now sitting at below $50 US per barrel, right? If it stays at those levels, and the rand exchange rate keep on improving like it has been doing in the past few days, few weeks. If it continue to improve and maybe goes to below 10 rand to US dollar or even below 10 rand, then you could see prices dropping to 10 rand per litre or even less.
A petrol hike results in an increase of commodities like taxi fares. In fact, the fuel price affects consumers in more ways than one.
An increase in the fuel price has an impact on consumers in more ways than one. Majority of goods are transported by road, meaning an increase on the fuel price affects the price of goods. Many of the small retailers rely on higher transport to buy from wholesalers, and an increase in transportation costs means that grocery items will also see a hike. The same goes with food chains, which have to transport the food from the depots. Commuters via taxis also feel the effect with rising fuel prices. The taxi industry often increase fares when there is a major increase in the petrol price, which ultimately affects the pockets of consumers. Sadly, taxi fares never drop once the petrol price decreases. Overall, an increase in fuel price means consumers' spending patterns will change. With an overall decrease in expenditure, this also has a negative effect on the economy, as many of the businesses rely on consumers for survival. With consumers having less disposable income, it means many of them are unable to afford things they used to afford.
It's time for us to take a break. When we return, we dispel some petrol-saving myths. Stay with us.